My name is Michael Cal. I'm just going to give a brief talk about what's happening in China, Asia, especially regarding cryptocurrencies. And for me, what I like to do is look at a brief history of how we got to where we are. And that's what I'm going to first go through. So a brief history of cryptocurrencies in China. The first exchange, BTC China, was launched in 2011. Not very well known back then. And then just to give you an idea, just remember this, in April 2013, April 30th, 2013 is when Bitcoin was really first announced in the media in China. It was being accepted as donation for Sichuan earthquake relief. So keep that date in mind. It's not that far ago. It was only about 4 years, ago. So just to give you an idea how fast things progressed and how fast things moved, and especially in the financial evolutionary timescale of how fast these things are. And then on December 5th of 2013 is when the People's Bank of China first came down with some guidelines on what Bitcoin is. And by the way, when I say cryptocurrencies and digital currencies, back during this time, it was pretty much only Bitcoin and maybe some other small alternative currencies like Litecoin. So Bitcoin can only be used as a virtual commodity. Cannot be used as a currency, can't be used for payment processing, the banks can't process it. And so when this happened, Bitcoin took a really big plunge in price around that time. And a lot of these Chinese exchanges, just as a note of humor, I actually deposited some RMB after this ruling came down. And some of these online exchanges actually made you deposit into a personal account name. So it'll be as if you're going to a Bitcoin exchange and you're depositing money to John Smith, that ABC account, and somehow it gets credited to your exchange account. And that was accepted. Those exchanges are still around. Everyone's happy. Just to give you an idea of the nuances between China and the Western world of, I guess, what's comfortable with consumers. So this leads up to the more recent events. So January 2017, going back to when the first ruling came out, a lot of people thought that this was the end of Bitcoin in China. There's going to be draconian rules. They're going to stop Bitcoin. It's not going to progress, and that's not the case. And then that fear came again in 2017 when the PBOC, the People's Central Bank, actually sent inspectors to the top 3 exchanges, Huobi, OKCoin, BTCC, and obviously the news love to fearmonger, and they're saying, oh, this could be the end of exchanges in China, and the world is, the sky's falling down. Actually, that's also not the case, as you know. Withdrawals have been re-enabled, and if you look quickly, this is what happened. They suspended withdrawals momentarily, but now everything's back in order, and this is actually beginning of June 1st is when the withdrawals actually started happening again in China, and prices actually rose 5% from that. And if you even go as recently as July 4th, about 6 days ago, there's a call for, blockchain engineers from the People's Central Bank of China to build blockchain technologies for China. So you can sort of get a sense that, one, a lot of these fears for draconian rules and regulations are probably unfounded. I think Asia and China is a lot more receptive to innovative financial technology than most people would realize. And we can see that when, so this is the volume when the withdrawals were stopped. And this is what the PBOC realizes too, I believe, is when they try to withdraw, or when you try to suppress the exchanges, all the volume just went to a place called Local Bitcoins, which is a peer-to-peer exchange platform. And as you can see, the spike in volume just happens to coincide when the withdrawals were frozen. So I strongly believe the People's Bank of China is very realistic, really pragmatic. They know that there are trade-offs to be made in terms of innovation and control, and they're very careful into not. There's a sense that this isn't the Mao era anymore. This isn't the We're not like, at least in China, it's not like North Korea, where I think there's a lot more sensibility now. And I guess I have a question for everyone. When we talk about Asia and digital currency, I think it's really important to really talk about mining. What percentage of mining do people think, who here thinks over 50% of mining is in China right now? Who believes that? Okay, so less than 50% here. But yeah, I would say actually over 60% of Bitcoin mining is based in China, or at least controlled by Chinese pools. So you look at the top, AMP pool, BTC top, Bixing, BTCC pool, F2 pool, BW pool. So more than 60%, or around 60%, is controlled by Chinese pool operators. And not only that, there's not many hardware manufacturers now. There used to be some in the US, but most of them have been conglomerated into Bitmain and somewhat another company called Bitfury. But China, right now, I strongly believe controls mining. And that's something very important because with mining, at least with the pool operators, comes a lot of control. For those of you who are not familiar with the Ethereum DAO hack, one of the ways for them to fork Ethereum, or the only way for them to fork Ethereum, was to get the consensus of not of everyone who was mining, but just the leaders of the mining pools. So all they had to do was convince the mining pools that it was a good idea to fork, and that's what happened to Ethereum. So just keep that in mind in terms of mining and how much importance there is in terms of control. And going straight into mining, where are these mines? I think I come from a mining background. This is one of the provinces in China. They're usually located in remote places in a place called Sichuan, where a lot of hydroelectric dams are. They actually are, they actually build them right on top of on the dams as well. And this is what some of them looks like. And just to give you an idea why they're so ahead in mining, and I was in this business, it takes about 200 to 400,000 US to build a facility in the US. It takes about $200,000 to $400,000 of USD to build a facility in the US. That's for all the safety requirements, to put the rubber on the wires so people don't get electrocuted, to get the UL certification. Whereas in China, it's probably around 50,000 USD per megawatt. And one example is, you can see exposed bus bars. This guy's on an aluminum ladder, and there's live electric bus bars on top. So if he touches that, he's most likely going to die. But there's no, I mean, the inspections, at least in the US where I came from, are a lot more rigorous than that. But that's the type of competition that really led to an explosion in China. And most of the machines are made in China anyways. This is actually not in China. This is a mining facility in Thailand from a group called Cowboy Miners. Cowboy Miners is what they were called, and this was the aftermath for some of these, I guess, not so safety inclined. So most of you are probably wondering about ICOs. That's probably what's all the rage right now. And it's true. It seems like most of the ICO participants are from China, and China seems to be very receptive to ICO investments. And you have various opinions, and you have these clickbait articles. This one's my favorite. Investors beware, China to give death penalty to ICO traders. So if any of you guys decide to launch ICOs in China, beware of the news. And the only time and market dynamics will tell how anyways, that's one side of the spectrum. Another side of the spectrum is probably a lot more level-headed, is from an advisor to the PBOC. They recognize the popular blockchain technologies, and he admits in his quote, ICOs will probably become the future. Moderate regulation should be applied, but it should not stifle innovation. So they realize what's going on. This is, within 4 years, like 4 years ago, April, remember that date from, anyways, April 30th, 2013 is when China really first heard about Bitcoin. So in a little around 4 years, this is how much China has progressed into, a little too fast, okay. So yeah, in about a little more than 4 years, this is the thinking and the evolution of thought and application of ICOs and Bitcoins. This shows you how fast things have progressed. And another quote which I like, which shows you the inner logic of the PBOC is, if you look at this, where it says, at least it's better than buying some trash stocks. And this is this is the lead, Yao Chen, he's the lead of digital currencies for the PBOCs. So they recognize the importance of this, and they're embracing this innovation and technology. And just to look at some, I know I'm talking a lot about China, but there are other countries in Asia. And obviously, Japan just deemed it as a legal means of payment in 2017. Bitcoin saw a nice bump because of that. They also have a very big day trading culture, so you see a lot of volume now from Japan. And Korea, even South Korea, the volume has exploded in the past few months. They're very familiar with digital currencies. And there's some that claim that Ethereum, the price bump from Ethereum was because of South Korea. And even North Korea supposedly have hackers that are stealing Bitcoins. They're looking to diversify. And Russia, most of the landmass is in Asia, so they're not really an Asian country, but you have Vitalik and Vladimir Putin sitting at the same table. So just by looking at everything, I think the future, we're at a great time and period to be in blockchain and cryptocurrency, especially in Asia. The future looks very bright. And I think the myth that Asian countries, or at least some communist countries like China or totalitarian countries, might want to control and contain innovation is unfounded. I think they're embracing it. They're embracing innovation. They're trying to use it for their own good. And if they try to contain it and stop innovation, it's just going to go somewhere else. And they realize that. Yeah, that's my brief talk. And I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your finance week. So.